And we have a lot to go through before we get to Thursday Night Football, so let's kick things off with the running backs. And a running back that we are loving right now is Achane because his quarterback in Tua has been back, and that's helped. Let's hear from Achane on the connection with Tua and his return.
He is the perfect guy to be in the QB of this offense. Like you said, you have to know so much when it comes to this offense because we got a lot of motions, and you got to know a lot of things. Like, it's not easy for somebody just come in and be like, okay, I can do this because it's not the type of offense he run. But Tua, he comes into this offense, he brings a lot of confidence. He makes sure he makes our job easy. He makes sure we lined up right, and if you happen to forget what you got, Tua's able to make sure that he puts you in the right spot.
Love-hate running backs. Achane averaging 21 touches in the 4 games Tua has started, Matthew. He has been a true RB1 and a workhorse when Tua's under center.
Yeah, because those touches have translated into fantasy production. You mentioned the 21 touches under Tua. He's averaging 27.8 fantasy points per game. I mean, almost 30 a game for the former Texas A&M Aggie. We love Achane. We love him against the Rams defense, by the way. They allow the 3rd most yards per reception to running backs. And one of the reasons I mention that is because Achane has been so involved in the passing game since Tua came back, especially. Those 4 games that you mentioned that Tua Tagovailoa started, he has a 22% target share. He has at least 6 receptions in all 4 of those games. So given how bad the Rams are defensively, especially against pass-catching running backs, wheels up for Achane. He's my running back 3 this week.
Yeah, and over the past 3 games that Tua has actually played, we talk about the issues with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill to a lesser extent. Achane is the number 1 guy in the passing offense, as well as the number 1 guy in the rushing offense. So Achane, I think coming into the season, there was the idea that his ceiling was as high as anyone. There were worlds coming into the year where Achane could be RB1 or just the number 1 overall player in fantasy, and he's kind of playing at that type of level when Tua is there.
A slow start to the season, Jay, for DeAndre Swift, but he's got 5 straight games with 18-plus touches right now. He's averaging over 21 touches a game since week 4, and he's got a Patriots defense on deck that's not exactly invincible.
Yeah, it's not terrifying. It's not terrible, but I think the main thing with him is just game script. The fact that they're 6-point favorites and he just has this incredibly high floor in terms of workload. I think also there was an idea perhaps after the London game for Caleb Williams, maybe this is going to be a high-flying, explosive passing offense. Not so much. So I think that just with their commitment to running the ball, with the work that Swift is getting, relatively unopposed in that backfield for now, he's a locked-in starter.
Yeah, and it's a nice matchup here, right? I mean, 3 of the last 4 running backs that have faced New England has had at least 115 total yards. Past month, Patriots allow the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And so DeAndre Swift is just getting, as you see it there on your screen, just a massive workload. Since week 4, he's got the 4th most touches per game among all running backs in the NFL. He's been, you see the headline there, he's been a ball hog. He's been a true bell cow running back. Honestly, Chicago uses him more than NBC uses me, and that's saying something. DeAndre Swift is a top 10 fantasy running back for me in Week 10.
James Conner sneaks into the top 15 here. He's got the Jets, Matthew, who have allowed 16-plus points to a running back in 4 straight games. The idea against the Jets defense is simple. Run the ball a lot. Arizona wants to do that.
Yeah,
what do you got for me?
Why can't your Jets ever stop the run? Why haven't they committed to it? How many coaches do they have to go through before they figure out they should probably try to stop the run?
Need better players.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, need better players.
This is Joe Douglas's fault?
It absolutely is.
Should the Jets be favored in Arizona? Because they are at the moment.
I would call it pick.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they're the same level of team.
Yeah.
They get to being the same level of team by completely different methods, but I think overall they are the same level of team.
There's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Let me tell you, Connor, I think you're going to be 8-8 going into the last week of the season to win and make the playoffs, and then you'll either lose that game in heartbreaking fashion, or you'll win that game and then lose by 30 points to Baltimore in round 1.
Jets will be 8-9. I've never been sure of something in my life. Yes. Turns out losing to the Patriots matters.
It turns out it certainly does. It'll be interesting to see how they do against Arizona. But certainly, James Conner, as we talk about bell cow running backs, he's had 8 completed games this season. He's had at least 19 touches in 7 of them. You mentioned the Jets defense as well. The last 4 running backs to face the Jets saw at least 20 touches, and they've given up at least 16 points, as you mentioned, to running backs in 4 straight. So James Conner getting a massive workload and a great matchup. He's a top 13 running back for me this week.
Some others receiving votes here. Your man, Najee Harris, Jay, who's had a great season so far. Kareem Hunt, who's been a workhorse for the Chiefs backfield off the couch and getting a ton of touches. Tyrone Tracy, who's been a breakout player for that Giants offense. And Tyler Algier, who, listen, no matter what Bijan Robinson does, he just doesn't go away.
He doesn't go away. He's been going a little bit more away lately, though. I know that he got into the end zone against Dallas, but he only had the 6 carries. He went 12 for 33 the week before that. Only 5 carries against the Seahawks, so they were getting blown out by the end of that one. Najee Harris, unsurprisingly, perhaps is the most interesting one to me. Just as Jaylen Warren kind of gets more involved in this offense and comes off that injury that delayed his start to the season, I just wonder whether that's going to shift more to being 50-50 or the Najee Harris, who has been in the best form of his career against the Commanders' run defense. The Commanders' defense has improved, still not terrifying. I do think that the loss of Jonathan Allen is perhaps being offset by Johnny Newton just emerging on the interior of that defensive line. So, look, the Steelers are 3-point underdogs in this one, Matthew, to your Commanders.
Which is crazy, but Najee's getting a ton of work, right? In the 2 games that Russell Wilson started, he's averaging over 21 touches a game. And so, just workload, I think, gets him there to be a top 20 running back, always a threat to fall into the end zone. I don't know, Isaiah Pacheco is going to come back sooner rather than later, but not this week and not against Denver, where Kareem Hunt over those last 4 is averaging over 25 touches a game. Broncos 7th most fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs, so it's a nice matchup for Hunt. He's a top 20 play for me this week. We mentioned Tyrone Tracy. He's playing Carolina. He's getting a ton of work, and he's playing Carolina. Top 20 play for me. And finally, Tyler Algier. We're stuck with Tyler Algier. It is what it is. But the New Orleans Saints, despite firing Dennis Allen, I don't think it's going to stop the fact that they can't stop the run. They're very Jets-like in that fashion. Last month, Saints allow 127 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. They also give up 5.5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That's most in the NFL. So Tyler Algier, who's, getting, even though Bijan Robinson is getting his, they still see Tyler Algier finds his way into double-digit touches every week, it seems like. Yep,
no, I agree there. And Tyrone Tracy, he's a 6.5-point favorite. This is the only time all season that the New York Giants are going to be 6.5-point favorites. Kind of like the Panthers plus 6.5. I don't think the Giants should be almost touchdown favorites over any team in the NFL, but in theory, Tracy should have game script on his side.
Yeah, Giants dealing with a lot of injuries going into that game. I know Carolina's dealt with a lot of injuries.
Bryce Young also, I get that it's Bryce Young, he still has variance. He still has upside, and he's coming off probably, I think, the best game of his career.
Not probably. Definitely the best game of his career. But, just from a looks, I think probably, statistically, but definitely from just a pure.
Yeah, he looked way more
the
comfortable.
Throws he was able to make in that game.
He looked like, okay, that's Bryce Young. Okay, that's the kid we saw at Alabama. Not consistently, not for the whole game, but there were moments there where you said, okay, not all hope is lost here.
Yep, using the middle of the field in a way that he probably hasn't before. And this Giants defense is good, but if they can contain Dexter Lawrence, then I think the secondary is somewhat exploitable.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.